parameters of active tissues. The active tissue means where the neuron is active. Well, it is most often detected using changes in transit time. I will tell you what this is. In case of slow signal, we already saw that it detects the local hemoglobin concentration changes, changes in blood flow resulting from neuronal activity, and it generally measured using the detected changes in light intensity, not the transit time. Well, the slow response is quite comparable to that by fMRI and PET. fMRI also detects the BOLD signal, the blood oxidation level dependent signal. It is potentially of the same scale in time domain as the slow signal. The BOLD signal also takes some time to rise up and reach its peak value, and same is the case with the PET. But the fast signal is comparable to EEG or MEG signals, which happen in milliseconds. So, like voltage signals and MEGs also, because of magnetoencephalography. Okay, now the functional near-infrared spectroscopy can be used in three well-known different ways. There is a fourth one as well. I will not touch it here. So the three techniques of fNIRS measurement are: number one is the continuous wave measurement, number two it's the frequency domain measurement, and at last it's the time resolved spectroscopy, or we also call it TIRS. Well, what are the differences between the three? In case of continuous wave, a continuous wave of fNIRS light is emitted. So continuous wave fNIRS uses light sources which emit light of a constant intensity. So the intensity of the light which we incident on the head is constant. It does not change. In case of frequency domain, this same intensity is modulated to some frequency. It's modulated to be made some sinusoids. Why do we do that? I will tell you later. And in case of the time resolved, what we do is we just give a short pulse, a very short pulse in the range of picoseconds, and we try to detect the number of photons arriving at the detector, and using the concept of the time of flight, we estimate the total distance the photons have traveled, and then we can find out the changes. So in case of continuous wave, we can find out the changes in the concentration of hemoglobins. In case of frequency domain, we can even measure the absolute values. The absolute values might not be very useful for neuroscientists, but for medical doctors, sometimes you need to know the absolute values of the hemoglobins present in human blood. So these are the three, and in the next slide I will tell you the differences and some of the properties of these three, the characteristics. In case of sampling rate, usually continuous wave is faster, frequency domain is also faster, but time resolved spectroscopy cannot sample very quickly. The reason is that when we shoot a pulse in the picoseconds, we wait for all the photons to come to the detector, and then we can again shoot the pulse. So before all the photons have arrived, we cannot shoot the pulse again, because we have to count the number of the photons in the case of time resolved spectroscopy. So the sampling rate is quite low in case of
the speed of photon is same as the speed of light.
True.
As I know, the speed of light is very very fast. So in the case of the distance of this range of brain is
I got you.
Speed is also I don't follow.
There is another thing.
Yeah.
That first of all, it does not travel straight. It has to go through multiple scattering. But even then, it should not be that slow. The other thing is that the equipment is quite sophisticated. The equipment heats up quite regularly. We have to shut it down sometimes, this machine. So that's why usually the sampling rates of the time resolution spectroscopy is quite low. And as in here we can also see that the instrument cost of this is very high because the instrument is quite sophisticated. You need to have some high speed detectors which can not only detect but also count the number of photons arriving at the detector. Well, in case of penetration depth, well, it's almost the same in all cases. We just cannot say it's low, deep, it's almost the same. At the 4 centimeter major detector distance. Possibilities to measure deep brain structure is not possible in adults, but yes, in case of the neanderthals or infants, because their head is small, we can go into the deep brain in case of kids, small kids, infants. Instrument cost, this one is quite low, this one is a little high, and this is very high usually. And the measurable parameters, as we said, that this uses, this can measure the change in the concentrations, this one can measure the absolute values, and this one can measure the absolute values too. Okay, now I will tell you something about where did it started and what is the history and literature review of NIRS. Well, in 1977, F. Jobses, he first presented a paper titled Non-Invasive Infrared Monitoring of Cerebral and Myocardial Oxygen Sufficiency and Circulatory Parameters. It was published in Science, and he demonstrated the possibility to detect changes in the cortical areas of in fact detecting the oxygenation in the cortex by NIRS, near infrared spectroscopy light. So well, since then, after that, after 1977, many people used it to see the cerebral hemodynamics, but for brain-computer interface, not many people used it. In 1989, the first commercial single-channel continuous wave NIRS system was built. It was built by Hamamatsu Photonics by a Japanese company, and its name was NIRO 1000. While the first NIRS studies were published in 1993 by 3 people. That was, I'm talking about the fNIRS studies, the functional one. Before that, only the NIRS studies had been published. The functional near-infrared spectroscopy studies were published in 1993. That was by Professor Hoshi, Muscaro, and Weslinger in 1993. These are the references to all the 4 papers that I've mentioned. Well, after that, in 1994, the first application of fNIRS on subjects affected with psychiatric disorder was carried out. So it was shown that even it can be applied to some people who have some psychiatric disorders. So there's a reference of that paper. In 1995, the first evidence of the fast optical response was provided, but there was not much work on the fast optical signal after 1995 because it was kind of a little controversial, I can say. Many people tried, but they could not get any fast optical response. But some of the people, they got it. So it was a little controversial till 2006, when the same person again gave another paper in which he showed some evidence of the detection of the fast optical response. In 1996, there was a first study in which they combined the 2 modalities, the fMRI and fNIRS. So we can also use fNIRS in combination to other modalities like EEG, fMRI, and others. And these are the references of those papers. Well, after that, in 1999, 64-channel time-resolved spectroscopy equipment was introduced. So this was the first 64-channel time-resolved spectroscopy (TRS) system, and of course in '99 there was the first optical tomography images of neonatology was carried out. So using TRS imaging, they basically provided the optical tomography, optical imaging of the structural imaging of an infant's head in 1999 using the TRS system. And in 2001, there was the first study using a portable single-channel fNIRS. It was carried out. It was again carried out by the same guy, Professor Hoji. So portable systems came in 2001. Then in 2001, Shimadzu, it's a big name in making the fNIRS system and other optical systems. They started releasing its first commercial 42-channel system. It was OMM 2001. And in the same year, 2001, ISS started releasing the frequency domain equipment, the imaging that we have in here. So that was developed, in fact that was released in 2001, and also in the same year Hitachi started releasing its first commercial equipment, 24-channel system. NIRS Medical Technologies made the Dialog. We also have this machine in here. So both these machines were publicly released in 2001. Well, in 2003, Artemis released the Oxymon, which could have up to 96 channels. Well, after that, in 2004, the first simultaneous recording of MEG with continuous wave fNIRS was carried out. So we can also combine MEG and fNIRS to detect the activity. And in 2004, the idea of using fNIRS as an optical BCI technique was introduced. Well, this was the first work in which the title was on the suitability of near-infrared system for next generation brain-computer interfaces. In this, they showed that actually we can use the concept of fNIRS for brain-computer interface. Before that, it was never used for brain-computer interface, just for getting the values of concentration changes to see where the activity is happening, to localization, detection of activities, localization of area, etc., but not for the brain-computer interface. Well, in 2005, Shimadzu released the 72-channel system. This is a very famous machine as well. Well, 2007 was the year when the brain-computer interface using fNIRS got a boom. Two different groups. One is the same, which presented the first work in 2004, Coyle from the University of Plymouth, Ireland. They published a work on the feasibility of BCI using fNIRS. They demonstrated for two tasks, in fact for one task, for a ball clenching task. There was a ball, the subjects were required to clench the ball, and the other activity was the rest period. So they classified the two activities and translated them into the control commands. They showed that this is possible to do that. And in the same year, a Japanese person, Naito, he demonstrated the feasibility of using fNIRS as a communication mean for ALS patients. Well, ALS patients are totally locked in patients, and there were around 40 subjects, 40 patients, and he conducted the experiments and using some different techniques, some different activities like imagination of slow music and imagination of soft sceneries, and he classified them against the imagination and mental rehearsal of fast music to give a two-state communication tool, as in, you can say, on and off, or yes or no. So, and in 2009 there was another interesting research. Well, In 2009, Liu and Chow, they proposed a BCI paradigm based on direct decoding of neural correlates for detecting subjective preferences. Well, previously, what people had done, they had asked the subjects to perform some activity to give activation of some area, and they classified that against the rest period or against the other activity. Well, these people, they said that from the neural correlates, you don't have to perform any specific activity. You just have to think naturally in this research, and fNIRS can get the signals out of your brain. Like in this, the experimental paradigm was something like this, that they presented two different kind of drinks. And the subjects were asked to mentally evaluate which drink do they like. So, and based on the data acquired by fNIRS, they classified, and they could classify with the average accuracy of around 80%, that they can decode the subjective preferences, which drink do the subjects prefer. This was interesting because it was not any specific activity based. From the neural correlates, from the natural hemodynamics, it means that the natural hemodynamics for selecting one drink was different than that for selecting the other drink. That was good. And after that, in 2009, Hitachi made a battery-operated wireless NIRS system for measurement of the frontal cortex. The battery-operated wireless systems are very small systems, but they are portable, the good thing. But the bad thing is that usually it's not possible to put them on the motor areas. They are good for the prefrontal areas. Like we have one wireless system. We can use it for the prefrontal cortex, but not for the motor one. And in 2001, the NIRS, the same company which made this Dynaut machine, they made a battery-operated wireless fNIRS system for measurement of the frontal cortex. And in 2012, there was another interesting study in which they combined fNIRS with EEG. So fNIRS and EEG were combined, and it was shown that for brain-computer interface, using fNIRS plus EEG, we can get better results, enhanced performance. And also, it was suggested that the event-related activity in case of fNIRS, it's better to use the event-related activities rather than the simple activities. So this is the reference. Well, at the end, I will describe some of the advantages and disadvantages of using fNIRS. Now, the best thing is that the best advantage is that it's non-invasive and it's portable. What do you need for a brain-computer interface system? It should not be invasive. You don't want to cut open the brain of a subject. And secondly, it should be portable. Wherever you go, it can go with you. It's not like we have to sit at some machine like fMRI. It's a huge one. Thirdly, it's not very expensive. It is utilizable at the sensitive patients like babies, or in some cases on pregnant women. It has no bad effect. It has a good spatial resolution. It has a better spatial resolution than EEG. And it has a good temporal resolution as well, better than that of fMRI. So to locate the brain activity, it's a good thing. It has a balanced spatial and temporal resolution. Not as good spatial resolution as fMRI, not as good temporal resolution as EEG, but the balance of both. And the disadvantages include, number one, the penetration depth is limited. As we said, it's around 3 centimeters. So in case of adults, we cannot go deep into the brain. That's one of the disadvantages. The second one is that the signal strength is affected by the hair on the head. As I told you that the wavelength, the near-infrared wavelength, is of the same scale as of our hair or a point of pin. So the hair can affect the near-infrared waves, and also the absorption because of the hair. So this is the hair artifact is there. Number 3 is the motion artifact. The relative motion on the octures on the hair may introduce motion artifacts. So if the octures are moved because of movement of head, there could be motion artifacts. And the last is, and the important one, is the inherent delay in the hemodynamic response. Since it detects the hemodynamic response most accurately, or most relied upon, the most relied response detected by fNIRS is hemodynamic response, and it takes some time to reach its peak value after the onset of the task or activity. So it has some inherent delay, and that is one of the issues that we have to address to reduce this delay, to get some other response, to look into the initial dip, to focus more onto the fast optical response. Because for brain-computer interface, maybe if you want to use brain-computer interface for communication only, maybe 2 or 3 seconds do not matter much. But if you have to control a robot or a prosthetic arm in real time using fNIRS, this delay is a huge delay. So this is the first part of my lectures. It's finished. So for the second part, we will have some break, and after that we can continue.
I can show slides. I was thinking about the artifact due to the hair. It's a kind of a proteins, right?
True, true.
Yeah. So in the previous slides, there was the comparison plus the, right, according to the wavelengths. There was no the proteins absorption rates.
Yes, actually,
different lights. So how can you introduce about the absorption rates?
Yes, actually, it has been done. It has been done. But in that case, we assumed that there were no hair when that graph was made. There was no absorption coefficient for the proteins and other things. But people have done research on that as well. So yes, the proteins have some absorption coefficient. There will be some absorption because of the proteins.
If we add more wavelengths in the fNIRS systems, so if we can know the the absorption rate of proteins in fNIRS systems, so can we measure the proteins absorption?
Yes.
So that you can
Yes, but actually, I don't think that there are proteins inside the blood.
But we can remove the artifacts due to the hairs or some
Yes, that is possible.
external some
Possible.
Yeah.
Possible. Yes, that's possible. But in that case, well, when you will see the modified Beard-Lambert law, because when you throw light, you have some protein here. After that, you don't have it. When you detect it, maybe you have some. So, in case of the modified Beard-Lambert law, we assume that the absorption coefficient changes. The change in the absorption coefficient is constant. There's constant changes in the absorption coefficient. So, yeah, maybe it could be done. I'm not sure about it.
So you means we can remove the artifacts due to hairs by some mathematical or mathematical?
Yes, usually what we do is we avoid the hairs in the path of our optodes. That's what we do. If we cannot do that, it's a problem.
We can remove the noises mathematically or by
yes. We can.
There
There are some ways to remove those noises, and in the second part of my lecture, yes, I will explain those.
Okay.
There are some what kind of noises are there, and what are the removal techniques that we use. I will explain.
Okay, thank you.